Hello and welcome to the Property Management Show. I'm your host, Alex Osenenko. My day job is the CEO of 4.5, a marketing company that works exclusively with fee-based property management companies. I spent the last 7 years of my life helping property management companies become more successful by improving sales, marketing, and operational efficiency. On this show, we'll deconstruct success into its key components and invite subject matter experts to help you improve every facet of your business. Thank you for tuning in and enjoy the show. Hey, so this is Alex, and thank you for joining our podcast. I have a very special and interesting guest today. Her name is Lisa Wise, and she's with a company called Nest. Lisa, do you call your company Nest DC, or is it just simply Nest?
Nest DC is usually how we refer to it.
Yeah, so as we go through this show and interview, you guys may want to navigate to nest-dc.com to kind of get exposed to the actual website of Lisa's company and kind of get the idea of what they're all about on your own as you listen to this interview. But I haven't really met Lisa, but I came across Lisa's website by random accident as we were doing sort of page fights, so to speak, on a property management webinar with Lead Simple. This was one of the websites that was assigned to me to review for conversion optimization advice. And as I was reviewing a bunch of other websites, I stumbled upon Nest, and as soon as I plugged that into my browser, I was, right away taken on a good tour of that website. And actually it was enjoyable. I really liked how the website laid out. I really liked the video. The video is like 6 minutes. You would think nobody watched that long of a promo video, but I did. It was very interesting. Everything's very well done. So I wanted to meet the person behind the company and talk to her about, what it took to build Nest DC and where she's going with it. So Lisa, last I heard on the podcast about 10 months ago that you, I think it was called Executive Leader Radio, you mentioned that you guys are about, 500 properties, 2.5 million run rate. That was 10 months ago. Where are you guys at now?
We're in that same place for Nest DC, but we've actually spun out our portfolio. So we separated the residential management side of our work, and that falls under the umbrella of Nest DC. We've pulled our association management out of that portfolio, and now we manage all of the buildings and associations under Roost. So we're still growing. We're building out new opportunities for revenue streams, and we've tidied up the portfolio so that we can really focus on different specialties with the two different companies. And I probably really confused everybody now by introducing a whole new company.
Interesting. No, I love it. It's the challenge. So let's get through that real quick and figure this out. So Roost is also your company, or is it?
It is our company. Roost DC is an outgrowth of Nest. It's a sister company. Nest is something I think it has become a success because we've had an exceptional team. Without the staff, we don't have anything to offer that's out of the ordinary. And I've been able to put together a loyal, dedicated, sophisticated, fun, motivated team of people that have made this company thrive and made it a reality. So one of the things that I wanted to do was reward those team members with an ownership opportunity to really, feel like they're stumbling upon Nest was a once in a lifetime opportunity. And rather than split Nest up, which was logistically complicated and less prudent, what we did was we took the associations that we were managing out of the Nest portfolio, and we spun that work out into a sister company called Roost. And Roost DC is an LLC with 11 owners. All of the Nest employees were invited to become shareholders. 11 of them did. And we're now, I think we're not aware of any other employee-owned management company that isn't a family. Even though we do feel like a family, we're technically not a family.
That is very impressive. So I was and am a big proponent of making sure that it's on my profile. Happy employees make happy customers, who make happy shareholders. That is the perfect world, and that's how it works, in my opinion. But what you guys did is pretty amazing. I mean, we have stock options, and we went kind of the more of a standard, generic way of a technology or startup company by offering and granting options to employees, where in your case you've actually spun out a division, made it into a company, and split the ownership between those who committed to the cause. That is really innovative, I'd say. And yes, you're right. I've met thousands of property managers literally throughout my career, and I have not seen anything like it. So props. That's really good. So let me ask you this now. That sounds really good and altruistic. How's that working for you so far? And how long ago have you done it, the split?
We're approaching our second year of business, the end of our second year of business as Roost, and I have to say it's been one of the best decisions I've made professionally, and probably the decision I'm most proud of. One of the great things about working with colleagues that are also your co-owners is the buy-in, the commitments, the steadfast focus on high-quality customer service, attention to the brand, teamwork. You're not going to get that same level of focus and commitment from an hourly employee. And you can reward employees as much as possible, but when you have an ownership at stake and a share of the company that you've bought into, it really lends itself to a totally different customer experience. And it's been great for business. It's been fun to work with team members that I can call my co-owners. And I think it's certainly created a totally different experience for our customers as well, and they love it. So, one of the chief complaints that we get, particularly in the association management environment, is that there's a lot of turnover, and when your team are co-owners, that variable goes away.
When you say turnover, you mean employee turnover, right?
Yeah, exactly. Employee, where you have traditional portfolio management, you've got a lot of turnover. A lot of the buildings that we work with are frustrated with, 1 to 2 different managers as their point of contact annually. So it's hard to sustain the institutional knowledge that you need to perform well for those buildings if you're seeing new team members, every 8 to 12 months.
I can't agree with you more. This is the continuity of and progression of your team is paramount in a service business. I'm in a service business just like you are. In fact, I model a lot of my back-end operations after some of the most successful property management companies I work with, and it had to do with account management and account manager, assistant account manager, which you guys have property manager, assistant property manager. The whole point is the team is responsible for their portfolio of clients, and there's a lot of things can be done on an assembly line, but when it comes to relationships, those should not be on an assembly line. Those should be individualized and connected to particular individuals who have, vested interest in, doing everything they can to make sure the customer is happy. So it's all about service, and yeah, that's good. We're definitely aligned here, but I want to stop here for just a second and just thank our sponsor, who's in fact the PM Growth Summit conference, which is coming up on January 2017. It is essentially, we're going to be pulling back the curtain on the biggest growth strategies in the industry, and the agenda includes things like strategic planning, lead generation, branding, salesmanship, sales. Productivity, lead nurturing, strategic acquisitions, financial models, marketing automation, marketing plans, and many other things in between. So this conference is truly designed for the growth-minded property management entrepreneur who is looking to, like Lisa, step out of the norm and truly build their business and the community around them. And Lisa, by the way, is going to be speaking at the conference. I think we're finalizing the topic right now, but I'm really excited to have Lisa come out to the conference. And if you guys have not seen it, go to pmgrowsummit.com, check it out, look at some speakers, check out some videos, and we hope to see you there. So Lisa, I have to ask this because you have a very interesting background. So before becoming a property manager, what did you do and how did you get into the property management business?
I was a policy consultant for a healthcare organization and then moved into senior leadership roles where I was either the chief operating officer or the executive director for either healthcare or environmental nonprofits. And that I segued into that after graduating from a graduate program with a degree in political economy, and before that a film degree, which I always joke that a film degree gets you a bus ticket is a little bit more valuable. It gets you at least from one at a time to the next. But those educational experiences, I think, certainly prepped me for what I would do for 12 solid years. But when I was living in Arizona, I bought a duplex, an 1893 Adobe duplex. And it penciled out to be cheaper to own something in grad school than it was to rent. And that was because I was actually earning income on the rental that I had. I loved working with my hands. I loved the idea of giving my neighbor and tenant a great living experience, a totally unique living experience, taking great care of the property and her. And I sort of stuck that in the back of my brain and started using that property to buy and manage other properties, and had a nice little portfolio on the side while I pursued my nonprofit career. And when the Great Recession hit, I was really burned out of raising money, because when you're in senior leadership roles in nonprofits, that's what you're doing, is raising money. So I decided to pivot and start my own management company and do it really organically with really our core philosophy, which has been the same from the day we started as it is today, which is we believe high quality property attracts high quality tenants. When people are happy where they live, they make better neighbors. And when you have a good group of neighbors, you have better neighborhoods and a happier, greater city. So that philosophy and driving agenda has always shaped what we do. It's what we hang our hat on here. And, the city was ready for it, and I was ready for it. So fast forward 8 years, and here we are, and we have a viable company, which I really, I went into this business with few expectations. And I think if I had expectations, they would have been exceeded by now.
Really, really good to hear. So what were the first sort of what were the first big challenges you had to overcome, and how did you do it? Specifically, maybe a little bit constructive advice for some of folks who might be starting out or early in their entrepreneurship career for property management business.
That's a great question. Billing.
Okay.
It's really hard to ask people to pay you for your time and work. It's hard to place a value on that, particularly when nobody wants to pay for property management, right? It's like, I always say the metaphorical equivalent of buying tires. So, we were trying to redefine that experience and make it something people felt really great about buying into, but, that took a lot of time. So billing and justifying our rates and helping people understand that there's value in something they may actually never really need to leverage. I mean, at some point, we're really property management is this great mixture of a service-based and sort of passive income, because if you're lucky, there's not a lot to be done. You kick in when there are emergencies, and if there are no emergencies, then you're sailing a little bit. And it's hard to always justify your value in that scenario. So billing was challenging. It was really hard for me in the beginning to figure out how to just do the baseline contractual billing, and to help owners understand that you have to maintain your property to a particular standard, or I can't manage it for you. And then I feel bad if I approach them with the turnover costs, or listen, you're going to have your windows redone because they're they're not efficient, or they don't open and close, or you're going to have to meet these certain requirements. I sort of felt like, because they were so put off by, I think, even just having to pay for management at all, having and understanding that I had to be the bearer of more financial bad news was one of the hardest parts of getting into the business. And to be honest, I'm still never comfortable with it.
Fair enough. We just had a conversation with a gentleman called Dennis Youssef. He is a BDM coach, which is Business Development Manager coach for property managers in Australia, and he's likely going to be one of the speakers, maybe even handling a couple sessions. His content is so refreshing, and one of the first things he said is, a lot of my client challenges is they're almost ashamed to of their fees of charging for the service. And what you just said, it's I had the same feeling, because when you're charging for service, it's very hard for you to justify the value of your time, as you said, to your customers, and figure out what the fair rate is, and making sure that you're actually delivering value. So how did you overcome that? That's very common for every service business startup, I think. I mean, I know you're still feeling that, and I'm the same, but what measures have you put in place, Lisa, to kind of combat that and move forward with your company growth?
I think when we could make the argument that, by paying our fees and helping us ensure that the tenants having the best possible experience, the space is properly maintained and well cared for, that you're really setting the relationship up and this really the small business for the owner up for total success. So when you've got great property in great shape, you're going to get tenants that take care of it and respect it and ensure that it stays in good shape. So it's ultimately spending the money in us and our time and our focus in making sure you've got a great product is going to save you money over the long haul. I think once we were able to make those arguments and actually anchor them in real life scenarios and examples, it was easier for owners to really understand that. And even, being able to present, the idea that if you're not going to do this now in one shot, like let's say getting a turnover done, we'll charge you $1,500 to do that, or you can spend $3,000 in one-off visits over the course of the next year. It's really the right investment right now. So it just had to be kind of another sales technique. It had to be something we really believed in offering a lot of value, even though the value, we still had to charge for that.
Gotcha. And then, but what specific, how did you communicate that? So so you've gotten to this, space where you believed, and you had some really good case studies. Is there a specific way you communicated? I'm trying to fish out some specific advice for some of the folks who are dealing with this stage at this stage of their business with this problem. Any specific recommendations on how to overcome that, how to communicate that to customers specifically when they raise those concerns? Our proposals are very transparent regarding our pricing. So I think just being super upfront before people are asking you why you charge X, Y, or Z, just tell them why you charge X, Y, or Z before they ask the question. So I think being really proactive, defining the fee structure, why the fee structure is what it is, what people can expect, being very transparent about all of that. I think people are concerned that they're going to get nickel and dimed. If you're clear that actually, this is what you're going to pay for, and these are things that you can expect going forward, I think people will feel a little bit more trusting. And I think there's a lot more confidence when you can say, you read the proposal, you were clear about our terms. If there are questions that you've got, we're happy to answer them, but this is our fee schedule. It works really well for us. And not being apologetic about charging for what we do. I mean, we're experts. We've learned a lot of lessons the hard way. And, offering free property management and free maintenance is a pretty easy thing to slip into if you're not clear about the value that you're offering. Fair enough. Let me ask you your stance on this particular statement. So, publishing pricing schedules on the website. How do you feel about that?
We publish our rates, and happily so. And if someone's price shopping and they see our rates are higher, then great. They just skipped a phone call. There's no reason for us not to be very upfront about what we're charging. And if our competitors in the field want to charge less, that's fine. Our attitude is there's always plenty of business out there, so we want people to feel like they're finding the right fit from a property management professional. And if a percentage point here or there is going to make a difference, then they need to follow their gut on that. So I don't have any problem publishing our rates, and I think it saves the consumer some time. And it makes them feel comfortable with the transparency you're offering with regard to what it costs to do our business.
I can't agree with you more on this point. I think the most successful people I speak with are in the same camp. I'm obviously in the same camp. Go to 4.5. Pricing, everything's very detailed and laid out, and and it actually shows by what the growth goal is connected to the price for the particular package offered. So, I'm a firm believer that competitors are not my intent. I want to communicate to my potential customers, and if they're not ready to spend the money, if they're looking for a better price instead, that's their choice. But we want to work with with people that fit our criteria as much as they want to find the best property manager or best marketing company or best plumber for their particular use case. So this is great. You and I are definitely in the same camp, and a lot of successful people and property managers I speak with are there. What do you take? I'm going to take pricing a little bit a step further, Lisa. What do you think about offering 2 or 3 different plans versus just one model that fits everyone?
I have tried every version of pricing out there, and the more straightforward and simplified we could make it, the easier it was for us. So different packages generally didn't work out. We had situations where we'd say, you're welcome to, we'll just offer a lease-only option, and then you can manage the property. And that equaled total disaster because the tenants didn't want to deal with the owners. They wanted to deal with us because that's who their relationship was with. Yeah. So, and owners didn't understand the complexity of being a landlord. So they were ill-prepared for that and just thinking they were going to save money. And actually the folks that look bad in that scenario are us. So we sunsetted that. We sunsetted different versions of, we're only going to do financial management, or we won't do financial management, and we'll do this or that. And finally we're like, you know what? The most successful properties we manage are those where the owner understands the value of our work and pays for us to do every part of it, and then they go about their lives. And people that want to sort of slice and dice what we offer are generally the people that are going to question our value over and over again. So we just stopped doing that. And what we offer is management of a condo or management of a house. And the fee structure is different because one is harder to manage than the other. And those are the rates, and that's what we do.
That is really interesting. So, but one thing I want to again bring into focus is the fact that you've tested and you went through iterations before you came to this particular point. And again, that's another sign of many successful business owners, as opposed to not so successful folks who think they know everything, or think folks who just like things easy, or just doing the old way because it's always been done this way. It's all about iteration and testing, right? Isn't it? You'll never know until you've tried all these different things. And look, you're probably right. You might have been a 1,000-unit company if that was your goal, right? If you had all these different, say, placement only, lower level management, and then higher level management. But that's not your goal, is it?
No.
You don't want to get everything you want to be everything for everybody, right? You have a very specific niche, and I respect that. And you guys tested, and you came up with a model that works.
Yeah, and we learned the hard way.
Yeah, and that's what testing is all about. It's you want to fail because otherwise you're just you're not doing it right. Your whole the fundamental setup for the test and the assumptions are incorrect. If you never fail, that means you never really succeeded. It's a status quo. So that's cool. So what is for the owner when you get them on the phone, Lisa? Who's the sale? Do you have a sale? Do you sell yourself, or do you have other people that do that for you?
I have several people. Most of my team is cross-trained to do that, which is a good thing because everybody can represent the company. We have 3 people that will generally rotate the sales calls and the leads, and then follow up with the client, and then sort of all the way to the point where they're going to get ready to do their leasing phase.
Wait, did you say 3 people?
We have 3 people on our team that will generally do that work, yeah.
All right. So, and you are, let's just remind folks, how many people do you have in your company? About 21? Is that 20?
Exactly. Yep.
Okay. So, I that's another distinction that I see between, high growth, high gear, high profitability entrepreneurs versus, folks who are just kind of there. It's the effort to put to get the new prospective clients and find the right person. In other words, have salespeople or have people who are able to sell, care enough to for the company, care enough to bring the right client in the door every time the opportunity arises. So that's one distinction that Lisa's company has that I think is paramount for any and every property management company who's looking to grow, is to invest money, effort, training, and get the people who are salespeople essentially and ready to represent your company and answer questions. So that is really cool. What were some of the particulars that maybe you can reveal some cool methods to train and help these people get up to speed and be the best salesperson of your company?
We ask, empathy is the most important thing that any of our sales reps or staff can have when they get to work each day. And I use the word pretty strong. It's pretty strongly. We need to understand where our tenants are coming from and the experiences that they're having. We need to understand where our clients are coming from and what they're going through. We're dealing with people in highly emotional situations where they're talking about moving their major asset, which is their house. They're generally in a point of transition that can be very charged. And coming to those conversations, whether it be the sales conversation or a maintenance conversation, with empathy and true respect for where those folks are in that moment, helps us be our best. It helps us be our best in our day-to-day work, and it helps, I think, represent the work that we do if someone wants to sign up with Nest or with Roost. So we talk a lot about what each experience means for our clients. What is it like to try and prepare a property for rent? How are we on our end taking for granted that this is just everyday work for us, when most of our owners this is the first and last time they'll hire a property manager. And this is the strongest impression they can get is from a company that says, we understand what you're going through. We want to make sure we're getting you through this and taking the stress off your plate instead of adding to it. I think that empathy piece is what helps us anchor the conversation in a way that keeps our clients really comfortable and trusting. If you enter every conversation with that empathy, you're going to have better luck bringing people on board and bringing people that are going to feel good about the management relationship that they're going to have. And so we spend a lot of time turning over different scenarios, understanding what it's like to pack out and move across the country or overseas, which a lot of our clients are. What it's like to be in the middle of a move from one end of town to the next, not going without rent, what it looks like to not know how to rent something, or the stress around what if I get a bad tenant, how do you vet tenants? So just putting yourself in their shoes is the most important thing. And then from there, what we also want each of our staff members to understand, from our finance team to our maintenance team to our leasing team, is how do houses and apartments work? That's part of what we're selling. If we know how they work, then we'll be trusted to take care of them once they're gone. I mean, you'll have a lot of property management companies, and you'll have people triaging phone calls from anyone that they're concerned about a toilet not working properly, or my AC is out in the middle of the summer, and they won't be prepped to say, change the air filter. That's probably your first best step. We spend a lot of time training our team to understand how a property functions. And we actually occupy a space that's very similar to one of our properties. So we all get a chance to kind of interface with our building and understand, like, this is what a living, breathing building is like. This is the experience that our clients are having every day.
Love it. Really, really innovative. And in fact, so one of my one of the people I follow and I listen to a lot and I aspire to is called Gary Vaynerchuk, Gary V. And one of his key hiring principles that he measures every time he gets in an interview is emotional intelligence. And empathy is a really big part of it. Emotional intelligence is as you said, building that emotional bridge between you and the prospect, and not just going through the motions and going through the script, which I strongly advise against, to be honest with you. And my business partner, Jordan, is on the other side of the scale. He's all about scripted sales, and there's some space for the scripting, specifically when you do cold reach outs and cold calls. But once you have somebody on the phone and you connected, I actually wrote a little book called The Sales Process for the Property Management Company, and one of those things, one of the key principles there is discovery and building the emotional bridge. That is the biggest differentiator between you and your competitors, not the price, not anything. It's empathy, as you said. It's ability to understand like how important this phone call to you is nothing compared to how important this phone call to the person on the other side with the house, with the challenge, with the problem. If you don't take time to listen, if you don't ask the right questions, if you don't present the right information back to them, they're on to the next call, figuring out what the price point is, and they make their decision based on price. So this is very critical, and again, I'm incredibly happy to have found you with the principles that's so foundational that and so core to our human kind of psychology that but nobody uses. Nobody, very few people. I've been a salesperson all my life before I started this company, and I'm never I'm not the slickest talker out there. I don't know the. I'm not a closer. I don't close. I can ask for an order, but I'm not shy. But I don't. I'm not a closer. But I am a listener, and it's always helped me. And that's what I teach essentially. Is my salespeople as well. Is you got to care more than anyone else. Empathy is a big part of it. So I'm really glad that we got to talk about this. Hopefully, it'll convince some of our listeners to try to build that thing. But for example, what we do, we bring property management clients into the office, and we have them kind of talk through their day, and it's essentially everybody gets to ask questions. We want to immerse my team into our customers' lives and understand what it's like. You're doing very similar, right? You even have a house that looks similar to your customers, that they can touch the toilet, touch the see the filter, the heater, and all those things, all the components that make up a house and comfortable living versus just nightmare, so to speak, for tenants. But that's really good. So is there a specific way, Lisa? Maybe you can teach me this. Is there a specific way you teach empathy, or how do you determine if that person's got it? Besides giving them opportunities and examples and getting them exposed to the challenges, are there any specific things that you do to help them build that?
To be honest, when we have staff that take frustrated clients really personally, or when a situation starts to go south or doesn't work out as well as you'd like it to, and they get really frustrated and take it personally, those are the staff members that you want to invest in. We talk a lot about how intensely emotional this job is for everybody on our team, and I think while we look at it as a drawback, why can't we just leave our work at the end of the day and not care whether or not this person's refrigerator gets replaced within the next 2 hours, even though they only called about it this morning? What is it about the way we do business that doesn't let us just drop things? Which is, sorry, we're at the corner of ambulance and police car here.
I gotcha. That sounded like it.
It's definitely urban, but we do take things really personally. I think we sometimes stumble on that. We spend a lot more emotional energy than we likely should, and from an efficiency perspective, it's a losing battle. But from a caring perspective, I think it's what makes us special. If we didn't care so much, we wouldn't be as good at what we do. And staff members that can blow things off and it doesn't matter and it's the client's fault, or they displace blame, or they don't want to ask themselves, how was I responsible for that maybe not going well? Those folks they're not nesters. They're not ready to create a unique experience because they would like to have a unique experience. I think that's one of the ways that we at least vet for the empathy gene.
They're not nesters. I like that. So there's a clear definition between nesters and not nesters. And have you had to fire people?
Oh yeah.
How do you go about doing that? I mean, I think as any business owners, we have to make. And well, I want to make a quick statement here. It is the most difficult thing I've ever had to do. I hate it. I don't like it. But I know for the welfare and well-being of our company, some decisions need to be made. And some people are great, and that's especially painful because they're good. They're just not a fit, as you call it. They're not nesters for you. They're not 4.5 for me. How do you go about doing that? How do you go about cutting the ties?
Sometimes very well and sometimes very poorly. The moments when I think we've handled it well is when we realize quickly we don't see this person being a fit and we let them go quickly. That's better for everybody. It gets harder when you have a relationship with that person. They might get along very well with the staff. They may be nesty, but they may not have the skills they need to actually get the job done well. Those are the scenarios where, you ask yourself over and over, well, maybe if we did this, or maybe if we did that, or it's better this week, or maybe it'll be better next week, because, there's a relationship. And one of the things that we honor above everything else is culture and staff. And if having one of those essential staff members from a culture perspective go is hard on everyone else. But at the same time, if you're investing in someone that's not value add in the big picture, it's not fair to the rest of the people that are pulling all of their weight. So, what we try and do when we have someone leave is really position it as an opportunity for them to be somewhere where they are going to thrive. It's not fair to anyone for someone to stay if they're not thriving. And framing it that way is sort of the best way to get there. Trying to keep people as part of the family, even though they're not going to be part of the team anymore, is the approach that we take for folks that we really cared about and liked, but just weren't the right fit in the long term, or couldn't really do the job the way that we needed it done. And it's the pits to fire people. But it's also, if you're going to pick a charity of choice, it might not be that person. So you have to do what's best for the business at the end of the day, because if the business is thriving, the people in that business will be thriving as well.
Yeah, I agree, but it's always difficult. So I like that definition of that person may be nesty, but they're not nester. And this is an interesting and once they're nesty, right? That's the hard fire, right? They're already part of the group. Everybody, they might be very social and outgoing and they're a good culture fit, but professionally, business wise, they're just not a fit. They're not pulling. So that's very interesting. I've always struggled with this, and I'm glad to see that you struggle as well. The struggle is real.
It is very real.
So, all right. So now, are there any specific ways you interview new team members that may reveal you some of that emotional intelligence, some of that empathy characteristics, or giving them a better chance to be a nester right up front? Any tricks there?
It really depends on the position that we're hiring for. But generally what we do is we force them to spend a lot of time with us. And if they can hold their own with us and all of our sort of interesting and very kind of familial interactions and the informality plus super high expectations that we have, if they can enjoy that conversation and blend well with that during the interview process, and they've got half of the battle is done. We don't really like and don't hire for. We're not ever interested in people that have property management backgrounds, actually, because they tend to come with bad habits. So we've got folks from every sort of walk of life. So you can't. It's not when you're interviewing people, you can't ask them, how would you deal with a repair that needs to be done in a client that's upset. I mean, you can ask them, like, you have an upset client. What's your approach? How do you deal with people that you've got to walk off the ledge and in the direction that's still on land? But it just really depends on the position. But you have to spend a lot of time with people. And we generally have different teams of folks interview so everyone can get their different impressions. And if people can get through that and still have a smile on their face and be excited about the job, then they've already passed half the test.
Interesting. We do something very similar. We almost have the whole team interview, and it lasts half a day, and they get to say the same things, be as passionate about what they believe in, and have no if they try to trick one person, they might be able to kind of convey the passion for something they're not passionate about, but they can't do it 10 times in a row. And then that's how we interview as well. There's a lot of and then we collaborate as a group, and if there's one person who feels strongly against the person, we're not going to take them on. It's just even if that person is the lowliest person on the totem pole, so to speak, we still won't take him on. So that's interesting. There's some similarities there. So I guess the advice here is immerse your whole team into the interviewing process and let your people be the character judges alongside of you, and don't necessarily have to have an industry experience. I think I don't really have a single marketer here that's been marketing. I mean, I maybe have one or two that's just done it in the past. But yeah, I see what you're saying. We're looking for character and emotional intelligence more than the actual experience, because it's not rocket science, and property management isn't rocket science. Also, you have the right people. Skill set can be acquired if they're flexible enough.
Yeah. I mean, I always make the argument that property management is very easy and relationship management is very hard.
True. Very true. So and one last question, because I think we're going, and I apologize for taking all this time, but I'm enjoying this, and I also want to say I want to learn from you on this next question. Being a service business, all of our listeners are, myself included, technology-enabled service business, but service business nonetheless. When do you know when to hire the next person? How do you go about making that decision?
When people are crying at their desks.
So you're the same as most of us. Projections are projections, but if you say they can handle, this team can handle 100 accounts, that's not always the case. Sometimes you can forecast that and be on point, but sometimes the 20 accounts out of the 100 that they handle bring 30% of the revenue, the rest don't. And they take a lot of time, which is justified, and blah, blah, blah. I get it. So, but anything beyond people crying for that they're super busy. Yeah.
Well, I think as an employee-owned company and a profit-sharing company, we now have, our team is fairly motivated not to just arbitrarily add folks when we're busy. First of all, we need to look at the season. Is this a busy season for us? And, all management is cyclical. DC has its own particular cycle, and some of that is very politically based when the elections are happening, things like that. So we might be breathlessly busy and begging for a new staff member, and then 2 months later, it'll be much slower. So we have to ask ourselves, can we get through the eye of the storm without committing to another payroll line? And I think when we frame it that way, people say, you know what, thinking about it, I think we can juggle some things. We've managed to bridge those gaps and get past those harder sort of high season, super intense periods by hiring temp help, which has worked, to do things that are one-off, that are easy to do. So we'll have folks that we know that are college students that we've had come in, an intern for us that are really good at doing showings, and they're here for the summer, and we'll have them doing showings during the summer season so that my leasing team has more desk time. So part of it is coming up with a creative solution to that crying at your desk problem. And the other part is asking ourselves, okay, what's making us busy? Let's study the problem that we're having that's leading us to the question of whether or not it's time to hire. Is it because we're spending too much time doing back and forth conversation? Are we doing too much data entry? Are we cleaning up systems problems? Are we trying to figure out where all the keys are to all the buildings? If the answer to some of those questions is we have a systems problem, then we're obligated to try and fix the system problem first and then staff second. And I think we've gotten much better at doing that. For a long time, it was sort of like, scoot over, we've got to add another person, add another person, add another person. I think that ultimately penciled out for us, but we're at the point now where we're asking ourselves, how can we grow as much as possible with the highest possible customer service experience, both inside and outside? So we consider all of our team members customers as much as we do our clients. And if people are happy and we know we're delivering a one-of-a-kind and exceptional service, then fine-tuning the systems is the way to go. If we feel like we're compromising, then staffing is the way to go.
I like that distinction. Really cool. So this is a system problem, and a lot of cases it might be. But of course, you can't really be doing that as you're scaling, just starting out. It's hard to 1, 2, 3 person, a lot of hats. It's tough to be disciplined enough to review and implement systems and be right about their effect on the business. But
right, and the fact that every system is temporary as well. I mean, your your portfolio is going to collapse on your systems at some point, and you're going to have to start over. And if you're not open-minded about what that looks like, and you don't invest the time in doing it, then it can start to be really destructive and cannibalize your business, because you won't be able to make up for the mistakes that are happening because you just can't track certain things.
Gotcha, Lisa. So I'm sorry, two more questions, very short ones. One is, what do you do as a CEO? What is your job? What does your day look like? What does your month look like?
That's a great question, and I don't actually have a good answer. My in-office time is purely collaborative. I spend a lot of time available to my team to answer questions, problem solve, come up with new ideas. A lot of business development, a lot of sales, a lot of project management. We do a lot of construction and project management in our company, and I have a strong affection and affinity for that. So I partner a lot with our other contractors to make sure that large-scale projects are getting done. So I'll spend some field time working on that. And then growth projections, looking at how we're going to increase the business and grow the business over time. A lot of strategic planning and things like that, working with my senior team to make sure that everything from HR to the systems to different investments we're making are the right ones, and a lot of networking. That's generally how I spend my days, and then getting to a lot of the client interactions nights and weekends. It's just, as a business owner that's interested in a growth trajectory, I need to invest the time in making sure that I'm still offering a quality customer experience, and I look at my team as a customer. I look at our clients as the customer. So I want to make sure that I'm delivering on every promise that I've made. I don't want to go out and sell something or a concept or a business or an idea or a service and not be able to deliver on that, from myself all the way to the person that's going to answer the phone.
Very interesting, very interesting. And so let's finish with this. If you and I, Lisa, talk in 12 months next year, so where would you like to be? Are there any particular goals or very high level stuff? Because maybe you and I will talk in 12 months, and I'll pull up the notes and see if you've gotten there. So care to make any kind of commitments?
I'd like to see 100% growth in Roost DC. I'd like to see 25% growth in the portfolio for Nest DC. I'd like to see 200% growth in our construction and turnover business. And I'd like to see us continue to win, Inc. 5000, the DC City Paper Best Places to Work. I want to make sure that if we're reaching out to our community and asking, are we doing our best work? The answer is yes. And I want to make sure that we're making a strong and meaningful impact on the community that we're part of. So I want to be able to say, we were able to do this for, the food bank, and this for the Humane Society, and this for our neighborhood association, because we're representing a community that we're part of, and we're obligated to make sure that we're making that community better every day.
Very good. Very specific. Okay. I'll maybe we'll touch base in 12 months, and hopefully you'll find a bit of time to come talk to me and our audience on something more specific later down the pike. But in 12 months, certainly I'd love to have you over and see kind of where we are. Lisa, I really appreciate your time. And thank you for sharing some of this really cool nuggets of wisdom. Lisa Wise here for you from Nest. And this is Alex with 4.5. Until next time, thank you for listening.